The 2022-2023 Premier League season has officially come to an end. Manchester City and Arsenal led a really close title race before Pep Guardiola's team ultimately lifted the trophy for another season. But honestly, this past year was entertaining throughout the entire table, with teams in the middle of the pack like Brighton and Aston Villa also making a lot of big moves. Now that we're into the summer, obviously a lot of these teams are going to change significantly in the transfer window, but I just wanted to have a little bit of fun and do an early prediction of the 2023-2024 season. Keep in mind these picks are going to be just my opinion, and if you have any different takes, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Now, let's get into the prediction. Alright, I have my notes gathered here, and we are going to start from the bottom of the table moving upwards. So we're going to start with the three teams that I think are going to face relegation next year. And those three teams are going to be Bournemouth and Everton, as well as Burnley. So Burnley is going to be a team that's going to be coming back up into the Premier League, and the past few years that they've been included, I don't think that they've been too inspiring in the league. They've had a great run with Sean Dyche as manager last time that they were in the league, but I don't know if they're going to have the depth for a Premier League team. I don't know if the quality is going to be there. And since they've been in the league over the past few years, I don't know if they're going to experience that new team bump that some other teams get as well. Bournemouth weren't very convincing. They were lower mid-table this past season, so I don't think it's likely that they'll fare too well this year. Then Everton, it's going to be very disappointing if they do go down, because I think that the fans of Everton deserve a good football team. But it seems like season after season, they're always ending up hanging by a thread. Under Frank Lampard, things just seem to go really poorly for them at the start of this season. And after he left, things didn't get much better. So unfortunately, I just don't know if they're going to have enough left in the tank to, make it out of the relegation zone. Okay, so moving up to lower mid-table, so spots 13 through 17. So in here, I'm going to have Luton Town, Nottingham Forest, going to have West Ham, Sheffield United, as well as Wolves. So for these teams, I think that they may have bright spots throughout the season, but nothing to be able to maintain a consistent run to get them into that top half or mid-table position. Luton Town has not been in the Premier League since I started following the league, which was back probably around 2005. So almost 20 years, I've never seen Luton Town in the Premiership. I've never actually gotten the chance to see them play. So it's really exciting that they're going to be in the league. I love when new teams come in the league that haven't been seen in the Premier League for a while. So I think they will experience a little bit of that promotion bump coming up from the Championship. I'm hoping they do at least. I'm definitely hoping the best for that squad. I'm excited to see the players that they have on their roster and the different talent that they have to offer. I think that kind of promotion bump is something we saw with Nottingham Forest as well. We occasionally saw them have a little bit momentum at different parts of the season. Back when they had the shirts with no sponsor, they also had, I think, the cleanest kits in the league, so I'm definitely hoping they stay up for that reason. West Ham, that's a team that's unfortunately they've fallen from grace a little bit. A couple seasons ago, we were talking about West Ham competing for European football. They actually just won the Conference League a few weeks ago. But it is very likely that West Ham will lose Declan Rice this summer. And if they do lose Declan Rice, I think it could be pretty devastating for them in the table. And that's why I have them in the lower mid-table here. Sheffield United, they were in the league several years ago. I'm cautiously optimistic that they might be able to survive promotion here and be able to just avoid those bottom three spots. Wolves have been pretty disappointing. Ever since Raul Jimenez suffered that head injury, unfortunately, I think he hasn't been quite able to lead that team the way that he once did. They do have some good players, so it's possible they could make several runs throughout the season, but I'm not very confident just because the league is so competitive that even though they have some great players and a decent coach now as well, it's just so hard to break into that mid to upper table. So moving on to spots 8 through 12, we're going to have Brentford. Then we're going to have Tottenham Hotspur, actually. May come as a surprise to some. We're going to have Brighton. Then we're going to have Fulham and Crystal Palace. So the team here that might be the most surprising is Tottenham. This would be one of the lowest finishes that they've had within the last 10 years. But I also think it's pretty likely. Harry Kane is, there's a good chance he's going to leave this summer. And the amount of times that Harry Kane has saved Tottenham from complete embarrassment is honestly pretty hard to count. I don't think that they have the best defense. Højbjerg is pretty strong in the midfield, but overall, I don't think they have the best defensive midfield core either. They have some great attackers, obviously, in Harry Kane and Son. But if Kane leaves this summer, I think it's very likely that Tottenham could face a reckoning. You heard a lot of the comments that Antonio Conte made about the side. Those comments must have been hard to hear if you're a Tottenham fan. You know, him saying that the players are demotivated, that they don't care, that they don't have passion, you know, that they're just collecting a paycheck. So it'll be interesting to see how new management, corrects that course coming into the 2023 season. But man, if they lose Harry Kane, it could be a long season for Tottenham. I'm open to them proving me wrong though. Brighton and Brentford, they were both very strong this past season. Brighton especially. Mitoma was great. Pascal Gross, great player. But they're going to have to deal with European football going into next season, and that's something that they hadn't had to deal with since they've been in the Premier League. So that's going to require greater depth in their squad, and it's a question mark at the moment whether or not they'll be able to maintain their European fixtures and continue to perform in the Premier League. Fulham also, I think they outperformed expectations last season. I think they could sneak into that 8th or 9th spot if they continue to be consistent. Had a few slip-ups in form here and there. They had Mitrovic go absolutely insane and what do you do? Shove a ref to the ground? So I guess if they can stop him from doing that, that'd be good. And then finally, Crystal Palace. Palace, I've always kind of liked watching Palace. I think Patrick Vieira was a good manager. I think it's a shame that they actually let him go. They're a really physical team, really strong. They've got some talented players. So I want to see them do well. That may be why I have them here. But they're another team they'll pick up a few wins and then struggle to string anything together for, the rest of the season. But they're a very physical squad. So I still think that they can get it probably around the 10th or 11th spot. So moving up into the top 7 spots, these are going to be the European competing spots, starting with the team that's going to be in 7th place and get Conference League play. I have chosen Aston Villa. So if you remember at the start of the 2022 season, Aston Villa was in very, very bad shape. Under Steven Gerrard, it looked like they were likely going to face a relegation battle. And after he lost his job and they brought in Unai Emery, he had so much work to do. But the way he's turned that club around this past season, it might have been one of the best performances, honestly, from any manager that we've seen. Maybe even more than Pep. He got the team playing very, very well. They pulled off some great wins against strong opposition throughout last season. Jacob Ramsey, I think, was their standout player, but they also have Leon Bailey's very strong. Ollie Watkins is great. They have Matty Cash on the side as well. They have good players, and Unai Emery, although he didn't do well at Arsenal, he's a very, very accomplished manager. He has several European titles under his belt. So he's arguably, maybe one of the top 3 or top 4 most experienced managers and most accomplished managers that's in this league. So that cannot be overlooked. It was a great pickup from Aston Villa. So I'm pretty confident that they're going to be able to maintain some of the momentum they had towards the end of last season and get that 7th spot. And next up, we are talking the 2 teams that are going to make the Europa League spots. So that's going to be spots 5th and 6th in the table. And for those spots, I'm going to go with Newcastle United and Manchester United. So there are probably going to be some upset Manchester United fans below, but I picked these 2 teams here because United, although they played very well at times this season, they managed to get 3rd place. They were actually, I think, in 2nd place for a decent stretch. Marcus Rashford, when he's on, which he was for around the midpoint of the season, for around half the season, I think Marcus Rashford was he was a top 3 player in the league. He was very, very good. Maybe behind Haaland and De Bruyne, Rashford was up there. If you remember his game when United played Arsenal, and he scored that goal after dribbling past 3 players at the halfway mark, he's an amazing player. But I think with United sometimes they often can rely too heavily on key players to perform in order to get a result. It's similar to the trap that we talked about Tottenham falling into with Harry Kane. They need Rashford to perform well, and they also rely pretty heavily on Casemiro, who's on his day, he's a great player. For the past decade, he's been one of the best defensive midfielders in the world. There's just no denying that. I'm not a Manchester United fan, but Casemiro is an amazing player. But I'm still not absolutely convinced with the defense. I know a lot of United fans, they're big on Lisandro Martinez. He is a good defender, but he hasn't been perfect. And obviously, it seems like Harry Maguire hasn't worked out the way the club's wanted. Varane has been kind of in and out with injuries. So I think maybe if United can put together another piece defensively, they could get into that Champions League spot. But at the moment, I think they're not going to quite crack the top 4. As far as Newcastle, that's another team that talk about outperforming this past season. Eddie Howe, some people called him the manager of the season. I'm not sure you could disagree with that. The fact that he got 4th place with the squad he did was really impressive. Obviously, Newcastle's under new ownership as of last year, so they now have a lot of Saudi money coming into the club, similar to back when Manchester City was bought over a decade ago. But I did not expect Newcastle to turn around their performances as fast as they did. I thought it was going to be a multi-year effort to see them get top 4. But the way Eddie Howe got this team playing was absolutely amazing. The way he got players like Miguel Almiron, who was kind of on the outskirts, of Premier League success for the past few years. The way he got Almiron playing, Isak, the striker from Sweden, I think he's a great player as well. They have a lot of offensive firepower. Saint Maximin, one of the probably top 5 wingers in the league. He's a great player as well. Defensively, I think they had one of the best records in the league. They had 33 goals against this season. Only Manchester City ties that record. So defensively, they're great. We all know how good Kieran Trippier is. They're going to have European football to contend with. That's part of the reason I saw them slipping from 4th to 5th. But they have a great manager, they have a great squad, and I don't see any reason why they can't get top 6 next year. So moving on to the Champions League spots. So we're going to be talking spots 2, 3, and 4 here. I have gone with Arsenal, Liverpool, and Chelsea. And I've gone in this specific order. I think it's going to be Arsenal second, Liverpool third, Chelsea fourth. Excuse me. So now I am a Chelsea fan. I should preface it by saying that because I think a lot of people are going to say that this is a very high spot to have Chelsea after they came in bottom half of the table last season. They came in 12th, which is their lowest finish in well over 20 years. It's their lowest finish since I started following football. It was an absolutely abysmal season for Chelsea. It was really hard to watch their games. If there's any other Chelsea fans, they'll know how hard it was to watch Chelsea games this year. Very disappointing. But we have a new manager. Pochettino is coming, and I'll say I'm cautiously optimistic about his ability to turn this team around. Some people weren't very happy with the appointment of Pochettino. I know some people wanted Nagelsmann. There was other managers floating around, but Pochettino took Tottenham to the Champions League final. That's extremely impressive. When he was manager of Paris Saint-Germain, he defeated Barcelona in the Champions League. He defeated Bayern Munich in the Champions League. He's managed players like Neymar. He's managed some of the biggest talents and some of the biggest egos in world football. He's also defeated some of the biggest teams in world football. His credentials as a manager, I don't really think that they can be questioned. Pochettino has had a lot of success. And if there's someone who I think could really use a summer to sculpt this Chelsea team in his vision, I think he's a good guy to give the reins to. I think he can definitely narrow down this squad of what is currently more than 30 players to something that's going to be a little more coachable. There's going to be some big departures from Chelsea this season. The team is extremely bloated. Conte is already out the door. He's leaving a Chelsea legend. Pulisic is likely also leaving. Same with Ziyech. There's a likelihood as well that Mason Mount might leave, which is honestly so disappointing for me to say. There's a chance he might go to Arsenal or United. But we also have some incoming players as well. Christopher Nkunku is going to be coming over from the Bundesliga. He is a proven attacker. He seems like a great player from the games I've seen him play in. So I'm excited for his arrival. Chelsea desperately need more success up front. Defensively, there's Fofana, Reece James, Ben Chilwell. That's a very strong defensive core, and I think Enzo Fernandez is probably a top 5 central midfielder in the Premier League. And even if you don't think he is right now, I think you can't argue that he has the potential to grow into that. He is a very, very good player. I actually think he's worth the price tag we paid for him. So that's my little rant about why I think Chelsea can get that top 4 spot. I think they can hopefully just slide in 4th. Who knows? They could prove me wrong and end up having an abysmal season again, but I think they can do it. So moving on to Liverpool, that's another team that struggled quite a bit last season. However, they actually rallied from around 8th or 9th place towards the beginning of the season to end up finishing 5th. So they were actually undefeated in their last 5 games. They finished the season really strong. Klopp seemed to get his team together. He also had Trent kind of playing in a hybrid midfield role rather than his traditional fullback role, which seemed to be a revelation. Trent is playing really well when he's in the midfield, when he plays higher up. I think he's a class player. I like that role for him. And they got Mo Salah, who is, without question, probably still the best winger in the league. Even on an off season, he still was, a top 5 goal scorer in the league. Cody Gakpo, I think, is a good player as well. He's going to grow more into his role. Darwin Núñez struggled this year, but I think he's going to grow more into his role as well this season. Van Dijk isn't perfect all the time, but he's still an absolutely class center back. And Klopp, he's a world-class manager. So I think Liverpool is definitely going to be in one of those top 3 spots. And then at second place, I think it's going to be Arsenal again. You may say this is a pretty safe or conservative pick, but just look at their squad. They've got Martin Odegaard, one of the best attacking midfielders in the league, one of the most creative players I've ever seen, only behind De Bruyne in terms of creativity. Saka, amazing winger. Martinelli, another amazing winger. Gabriel Jesus, he's still getting back from injury, but when he's top of his game, we know what he's capable of. Defensively, Arsenal have also made some amazing signings. Gabriel, Saliba, Tomiyasu over the past couple years, I think they've built a really strong back line. Defensive mid, I think they're set as well with Partey. And I think what could be maybe the biggest missing link with Arsenal that could get filled this summer is another central midfielder, possibly someone who can pair with Partey. And that could end up being Declan Rice. We talked earlier about how West Ham is likely to sell Declan Rice. If Arsenal get Declan Rice, I honestly think that could propel them to the first place position. I think that could be a league-winning signing. I definitely think it's something that could keep them in the top 4. They've got a really strong squad. I think Mikel Arteta has matured a lot as a manager as well. So I am very confident they can get top 4 again. Who knows, maybe even champions. But for now, there's absolutely no betting against Pep Guardiola. He has at least 2 more years at Manchester City after his contract extension. And not only is there no betting against him, but there's no betting against Kevin De Bruyne. There's no betting against Erling Haaland right now. That's the best striker in the Premier League in Haaland, and the best midfielder in the Premier League in De Bruyne. When you look at Manchester City, this team had Phil Foden coming off the bench in the Champions League final. They had Riyad Mahrez on the bench in the Champions League final. Julian Alvarez on the bench. The depth of that team is insane. They have almost 2 starting 11s that could go on the field. Not to mention that despite being loaded offensively, they also have a great defensive core. Rodri is one of the best defensive midfielders in the world, in my opinion. He's scored the goal to win them the Champions League final. And Pep has shown time and time again that even with personnel changes, he's able to maintain his system. Last year, people were talking about João Cancelo being one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League. I thought he was one of the best fullbacks of the Premier League. He was at the time. Him and Pep had a dispute. They didn't see eye to eye. He was traded to Bayern Munich. That defensive line did not miss a beat after losing Cancelo. The fact they were still able to perform that well after losing one of their core players is so impressive. And it's a testament to how well Pep can maintain his system. So I think that Pep's Manchester City team they're still the team to beat. Honestly, I love watching them play just because of how good they are, but I would be welcome to the possibility of another team dethroning them, because I like to see more competition throughout the league. So there you have it. Those are my predictions for the 2023-2024 Premier League season. Sorry if I went on any rants throughout the video, but anyway, let me know what your thoughts are on these predictions. Let me know who you think is going to win the league, if it's going to be City or if we're going to get another team in there. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.